Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Whenever you are listening to this, it is Lisa here with Module 4, the CAR module, which stands for Calories at Risk. Calories are king. Now, we're going to crack on with this one, guys, because the last one, we did actually start to introduce some of the topics. So, what are we going to cover today? Calories, why calories are really important. App, RA, MyFitnessPal, a very simple way about how we can look at what we're eating. And the third thing is risk, about not doing it. And it's one of those things that people often kind of get confused about, and it can be a risky thing to your weight loss strategy if you don't understand it and get it right. So we're going to look a little bit, there's me. Fat bird on the horse, as I say, not very kind about myself in that picture. It's probably one of the worst pictures I could have found about myself. But it's a little bit about, you know, my story, what I did do. And it's, you know, we all know this. And so many people say to me, I know what I have to do. I have to eat less than I use. But I knew that. And I didn't do it. And I always used to say, oh, I eat relatively healthily. I cook things from scratch. And the thing is, that's totally fine. But at the end of the day, if we don't know how much we're eating or what type of we're eating, we might not be accurately looking at what we're eating. So one of the things I did, one of the biggest things I did was I tracked my food. Now, I know a lot of you are going to get a little bit like, oh, you know, oh, I've got to track my food. Oh, this is going to be really difficult. No, it's not going to be really difficult. But there are just a couple of things that you need to understand. The first one is that you need to be in a calorie deficit. And the second one is this isn't for the longer term. And the reason I really want you to do this, I want you to be one of the 5% that are successful at weight loss and keep the weight loss off. So calories are king. It is really that very simple mathematical equation. You have to be in a calorie deficit. So, you know, calories in versus calories out. If you are eating too many calories, your body, for what your body needs based on your weight, age, gender and height, if you're in a calorie surplus, then you will be gaining weight. If you are eating the exact right amount for what your body needs, for your weight, height, gender, you'd be calorie maintenance. And to lose weight, you need to be in a deficit for your weight, height, age, and gender. It's about looking at the longer term picture here and not about doing something forever. So do I still track my calories? No, not really. Occasionally, if I've put a few pounds on, yes, I do. It's the first thing I go back and do because it creates an honesty with myself to go, ooh, Lisa, if you're eating that chocolate biscuit, it's going to be a couple of hundred calories. So, yeah, I do. It makes me accountable. And as I say, it is a pretty simple mathematical equation, one that we can work out quite easily for you. It doesn't have to be a really complex thing to do. There are more complicated ways of doing it, but there's this very simple rule of thumb that we're going to do. And the second thing is, obviously, you need to get a good quality of food in. So is, you know, 10 donuts equal to eating a healthy, balanced meal, say, of having some fish, some vegetables, some potatoes, or something like that? Yeah, of course, it's not the same. So, you know, it is about the quality of food that we do. But the way in which we do it is relatively straightforward. So the way in which we do it is there are two numbers to worry about. And the first one of those is the number of calories that you're eating. And we've just talked about why that's important. And the second is protein. So the thing that most people underestimate is having a protein bowl. And that's the amount of calories you should get from protein. So your protein are things like your lean meats, your fish, your beef, your pork, all that sort of thing. Your pulses, your lentils, if you want more plant-based, your Greek yogurt, your cottage cheese, your tuna. So your protein is a really, really key component. Well, we're going to go into that and talk about that in detail. But once you've got those two things figured out, which you don't have to do by yourself, which of course I'm going to help you figure out, the rest kind of take care of itself. So that's the two things that you're only going to have to worry about, two numbers that you're going to need to worry about. Lisa, oh, it sounds really boring. You know, okay, it does sound really boring, but it doesn't mean what you're eating is really boring. What you're eating doesn't have to be boring, but you do have to know how much you are eating. And that's just really the thing that you really need to know. So it's a bit like, you know, if you've got, if you're saving for something, supposing you were saving to go on your holidays, you would have to work out how much you've got coming in, how much you've got going out, and how much you can put into the bank. It's exactly the same. It's not forever. As I just said, look, you know, hey, do I track calories every day? No. Do I track calories, you know, when I've gone overweight and I want to lose a few pounds? Absolutely. And the ideal and the reality are just two different things. And I just want to just touch on that, you know, like if you hit those two goals, your calorie goals, your protein goals, it gives a lot of flexibility around the things that you would like to eat. So people think, oh, that means I'm eating like broccoli and chicken for the rest of my life. No, that's not reality. But there is an ideal of the types of food that you want to start getting in and bringing into your diet. We've quite simply reduced your calories round just by making some simple swaps, simple switches to your dietary choices. And that's about as difficult as it gets, a little bit more difficult. So that's a bit of an introduction about why calories are important, what we're going to look at those two numbers. And we have got an action point. So one thing is that a lot of people say to me, when I first talk to them, they say, oh, I just want to be this sort of person that, you know, I can eat healthily most of the time. I look at my friends and then we go out for dinner and they have whatever they want. But they say to me, well, I don't do that all the time. I have it when I go out and, you know, I want to make those better choices. I want to go into a shop and know what's a good thing to pick. And that's a really interesting thing because inherently, most of us want to eat a diet that's healthy, but have some stuff that we want when we want it and understand how it's impacting our body. So what I would want you to do now, we have got a little action point, and to feed into that, how do you really want to eat? We have got another exercise. It's the part 2. It's the who do you want to be? So it's the follow on from the where are you now? It's the follow on from that journey going forward. You know, how do you want to eat? What sort of a person do you want to be in the way that you eat? And what sort of person do you want to be in your life? And again, this goes back to our initial conversation when we talked about where are you now? What do you struggle with? What are your challenges? To the where do you want to be and how's that going to make you feel when you get there? So there is going to be a coaching model on this, which you will get the information for. And, you know, and it's a really interesting one because people can really go to town on this about who they really want to be. A lot of my clients say things like, you know, I want to be like, you know, one of those like really brilliant entrepreneurs. I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're like, you know, those guys like Bill Gates, they make loads of money, but they always seem to have time for this, that, and the other. And it's like, they seem to exercise and they're healthy. And, you know, those guys didn't fall into it overnight. It took them time and effort and a bit of work to get there. And it's the same for all of us. You know, we have to put a little bit of effort into it. So an action point there is the who do you want to be, part 2, exercise the enhanced character. So the A of the CAR model, app, MyFitnessPal. So me now versus me before, I never tracked my food. I never did it. You know, I knew as a fitness professional everything that I'm talking about now, but I just didn't implement it myself. And the difference is now I track my food when I need to, as I say. You know, I don't do it all the time, but sometimes if I've put a few pounds on, it's the first thing I do. I don't exercise more. I look at exactly what I'm eating. I make those tweaks, and then that works for me. And what gets measured gets managed. I use this all the time. What gets measured gets managed. You know, you wouldn't go along with your project budget going, oh yeah, well, I think we're on track, but I'm not really sure. I think we paid some people this week, but I haven't actually put it onto the budget. Of course you wouldn't do that. You'd manage it. You'd go, hey, oh, we're going over budget here. If we spend this, you know, or hey, oh, we're going to go over time here if we take this long to do this piece of work. So, you know, it's kind of like, it's in some ways, it's that just getting used to it. And I know you're going to say, oh, it's going to be really hard and complicated, but we're going to talk about that. So what I'm going to do is get you to Dolo and MyFitnessPal. You can even try downloading it. So it's www.myfitnesspal.com. And if you Dolo and it or download it, that would be absolutely brilliant. So there's a huge typo on there I've just noticed. And I'm going to send you a very short video on how to set it up. Because, you know, you think it's really complicated and it's absolutely not. So there's going to be a really, really quick, kind of easy, you know, foolproof guide to setting up. A lot of you guys won't even need it. You would have seen it before. And it's really just not that complicated. So, you know, and I know you say, oh, it sounds really complicated. It's actually become quite advanced. You know, it isn't a foolproof app. No app is. You know, we will talk about your personal goals and how you need to set that up. And we will talk about that separately. But, you know, it's become quite intuitive. There's a barcode feature. So that's a really, really simple thing. So if you've got anything in a packet, you can scan the barcode. If you shop at, say, Marks and Spencer's and put in Marks and Spencer's chicken or something like that, you know, that will come up. It will find those store things, store items, it will barcode scan things. And once you've actually put in, say you have your breakfast and you might put in eggs, salmon or something like that, it's in your history. So it's very, very simple. But as I say, there is a very short separate video on how to set it up with some real simple full idiot's guide for Lisa, how to set it up, because I needed that help when I first started. And then when I got into it, I realised actually how simple and uncomplicated it was. So, risk. Okay, guys, I know a lot of you are thinking, you know, well, I tried counter, I've tried it, didn't work. And I can't stress strongly enough, if you've been on any diet before, you will be in a calorie deficit. The only thing is with some of the more popular diets, they're really restrictive. Somebody once said to me, Slimming World, if you eat avocado, I encourage you to eat avocado if you like avocado, it's a good healthy fat, is about a gazillion sins. I mean, you know, it's just a nonsense. It's good food, it's healthy fat. But they'll put you in a calorie deficit in the way in which they manage it. Same with anything like juicing, Weight Watchers, Cambridge diet. All of these diets will put you in a calorie deficit. Counting calories is just a different way to do it and gives you much, much, much more flexibility. You're probably saying, oh, you're going to make me eat what I don't want to eat. I don't want to eat quinoa. Look, somebody actually said this to me. Seriously, you know, I had a client that once said to me, well, I have to eat quinoa. And I said, do you like quinoa? She said, no. I said, well, then don't eat it. You know, it's like, really, don't eat it if you don't like it. But if you want to lose weight and you want to be successful, it's a brilliant tool and I'll help you. But we do just want to reduce that risk down of overeating or not understanding the combinations of what we're eating. And this is the simplest and quickest way to do that, that gives you a lot of flexibility, bearing in mind there's only two numbers that we need to focus on. That's your protein and your calories, and I'm going to talk to you about that separately, about what they are for you. You know, it might be a bit tricky to start, but as I say, I've got the foolproof guide to let you have, which you can go through at your own time. It's no more tricky than if you're going into a new role and the challenges that you face with that. It will make it look like a piece of cake. You know, it really will. Forgive the pun, all puns actually intended. You know, going into a new role is a challenge. Setting up MyFitnessPal and using it is relatively straightforward and simple. 3 to 5 days, you'll be getting the hang of it, and you'll be going, oh, I like this. Oh, I didn't realise this. Oh, look at that. I never knew that. So, you know, it's 3 to 5 days, you'll get the hang of it. And really, you need to use it to goal, to understand what your maintenance is, and to balance that out. And I talk more about that, about how you phase that out in my mastery program, Project U 2.0. So, you know, it's not about just saying, oh, well, I've got to use this for the rest of my life. And I can't stress that strongly enough. As I say, now I know exactly calories in things. I know pretty much. But when I go over, just hop back on for a few weeks, get back in control and understand what I'm doing. But Lisa, I'm eating out. How can I? It's not going to tell me how many calories I'm eating. I don't want to have to put my food in if I'm eating out. And of course you don't. You want to have a life. So here's the thing. Sometimes you overestimate. Sometimes you underestimate. And part of the training, we look at that. You go for a midway option because it will balance out. You know, and if you say, look, I really don't know, you know, tell me what you had. I'll look for you. I'll give you a good guesstimate of what it should be. It's really, when you start to get used to it, you'll understand it so much more. It takes nanoseconds. I mean, how often are we phone fiddling? Seriously, you know, we phone fiddle a lot. How quickly can we add in a couple of items? You know, it really, once you start to use it, as I say, after the first 3 to 5 days, you'll be saying, oh, it's really simple. You know, it does have limitations, and the separate little video will look at the limitations of that and why, you know, it's about just doing good enough is good enough. But it is an important tool to use. If you don't use it, you know, the likelihood of really reaching your goals more quickly, easily and simply is reduced. So just be aware of that. So action point, download MyFitnessPal. Just put your details in, have a play around with it, and then I'm going to send you a very, very short how to set it up for you when we next talk, what details you need to put in with you. One of its limitations obviously is the fact that it doesn't know you as an individual, and I do. So it will put in some blanket statistics, not based on what I know about you and your lifestyle. So, you know, just download it, have a play around with it, set it up, and then you'll get the separate. Quick recap, Carl. Calories at risk. Calories do count. You cannot get away from that. Calories are king. Calories in versus calories out. And the second important figure that we need to look at is the amount of protein in your diet. And I'm going to tell you both of those figures that you need to put in to MyFitnessPal. What gets measured gets managed. You manage your budgets, you manage your project plans, you measure those things, you track. So what gets measured gets managed with MyFitnessPal. There is a risk if you don't do it, but don't worry. It gets very easy. You know, you go to goal, to maintenance and to balance before you can just give it up. And there is a risk involved if you don't use it. So just, that's about it from me today. As ever, comments, questions, queries, just drop me a note. I can go over that with you. This is quite an important training because I think it covers two things. It covers the thing of really understanding how we can see what works well for us, what works well for our bodies. You'll start to pick up on that as we go through the program when you're using MyFitnessPal, looking at what works well for you, what doesn't work well for you. You'll also see that we're not talking about eating chicken, broccoli and dried rice out of a Tupperware, that you can have a lot more flexibility by using this method for you and your lifestyle. But there is, as I say, it is important on the flip side. If we don't measure it, we don't know. I can't help you. I'm working in guest land if I can't understand what's coming into your diet and what's going out. So it is kind of probably, I would say, the single biggest factor in terms of tools that will help you get to your goals as you want to get to your goals. So that's it from me today. Thanks very much for listening in. Take good care. Have a great day wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye for now.